2 of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the third wheel. Dad has really been nagging Uncle Gary about finding a job, but Uncle Gary says he's tired and no one is hiring. Uncle Gary has never held down a job from more than a few days. The last one he had was over the summer when he worked as a test subject for a company and made paper spray. I'm pretty sure he quit before lunch. I think we need more paper. Dad wants Uncle Gary to get a job like he has, where you work in an office and have regular hours. But I don't think Uncle Gary is cut out for an office job, and I'm not sure I am either. Dad has to dress up for work every day in a shirt and tie, and he has to wear dress shoes and dress socks too. I've already decided that when I grow up, I'm gonna find a job where you don't need to wear those socks and go up to your knees. Has someone seen my trousers? Last summer, Dad brought me to bring your child to work day at his office, but the people at Dad's works must have realized their jobs would be boring to their kids, so they brought in all sorts of entertainment. For most of the day, us kids stayed in the cafeteria while the grown-ups got some work done in their offices. Towards the end of the day, Dad brought me into his office while he tried to finish up an important project. So I sat there next to him and waited. But I think it was hard for him to concentrate while someone was looking over his shoulder. Dad gave me money to buy something from the vending machine. He was probably just trying to get rid of me for a little while, so he wasn't too happy when I came back a minute later with a box of jawbreakers. Dad told me he really needed to finish what he was doing, so he asked me to find somewhere else to sit while he wrapped things up. He must have been really distracted that day, though, because he went home and left me behind. I must have been stuck there all night if the janitor hadn't found me. Anyway, Dad is pretty annoyed that Uncle Gary doesn't have any money and has been mooching off him. Mom has actually started giving Uncle Gary an allowance, even though he doesn't have to do any chores for it, which feels wrong to me. I just hope Uncle Gary uses some of his allowance to pay for his bubble bath. He used up all mine the second day he was here, and it's really not the same when the water is crystal clear. Tuesday. I really wish I didn't have to throw my jeans out a few weeks ago, because today at school I needed to look sharp. We're starting a ballroom dancing unit in physical education, and Mrs. Maria said each of us needed to find a partner, so it wasn't a good day to be wearing cordy trousers that are 3 inches too short. Mrs. Moyat said we were gonna choose partners by writing down the name of the person we wanted to dance with on a little slip of paper. Then she'd go through the pieces of paper and pair us up the best she could. That was the same system she used last year for the square dancing unit, though I totally got burned. I wrote down the name of the prettiest girl in my class, Bella Anthony. But she didn't write down my name. She wrote down Bryson Anderson just like every other girl in the class. Bryson ended up picking Mackenzie Pollard, and Mrs. Marriott assigned Bailey to be my dance partner because I picked her. At first, I was really excited I got Bailey as a partner, but then I had to deal with this kind of nonsense for the 3 weeks. I didn't pick him. I guess Bailey didn't want a repeat of last year either, because today she went around to all the guys who didn't have a chance with her and let them know, "Don't any of you nerds write my name down." To be honest with you, I don't really care who I get paired up with as long as it isn't Ruby Bird. As far as I know, Ruby is the only girl who has ever been suspended from our school, and that was for biting a teacher. In fact, the reason Ruby only has one front tooth is because the other one ended up in Mr. Underwood's elbow. I tried to be pretty nice to Ruby whenever I come across her in the hallway because she terrifies me. Ladies first. But today I got worried that maybe I've been too nice and she might think I actually like her. Then last thing I need is for Ruby to write my name down on the little slip of paper. Because I know if she's my dance partner, I'll do something to make her mad and end up with her other tooth in my arm. So I use my slip of paper to try to make sure that doesn't happen. Please do not put me with Ruby Bird. Sincerely, Greg Heffley. I even threw in a half-eaten candy bar I was saving for later to make sure Mrs. Marriott comes through for me. Wednesday. Last night I prayed extra hard that I wouldn't end up with Ruby as my dance partner. Then I started worrying that maybe you only get a certain number of prayers answered in your lifetime, and I'm burning through mine too fast. I'd hate to find out later on that I used up all my chits because I've been acting like I've got an ultimate supply. I probably need to be more careful about that. This weekend the toilet in upstairs bathroom got clogged, and I prayed that the plumber wouldn't use our bathroom after he fixed it. For the record, I have about a 75% success with my rate of prayers. I don't know if that's good or bad, but one thing I'm pretty sure of is that I'm never gonna get lightsaber for my birthday no matter how badly I want it. Anyway, I think I've got to be a lot more specific when I pray for something, because today my physical education, my wish was granted, but I'm not happy about the way things turned around. At the beginning of the class, Mrs. Marriott called out names for dancing partners, and I held my breath when she got to Ruby Bird. But Ruby got paired up with Fregley, and if you ask me, that's a match made in heaven. Eventually, Mrs. Marriott read out the last girl's name, and there was still a bunch of boys left over, including me. There were a lot more boys in my class this year than girls, so it made sense that not everyone got a partner. But still, I was a little disappointed that no one wrote my name on one of those little slips of paper. Then us guys realized we weren't gonna have to do the ballroom dancing unit and that we could just play kickball on the other side of the gym for 3 weeks. But we celebrated a little too soon. Mrs. Marriott said that everyone had to dance, and she started pairing us boys up with one another. So the next thing I knew, I was dancing a waltz with Carlos Escalera. Monday. Today at school, physical education was cancelled because we had the General Assembly during 4th period. I have to admit I was a little disappointed when I found out because, believe it or not, me and Carlos have actually been getting the hang of the merengue. Most people were pretty excited though because we haven't had the General Assembly since November. That's when the hypothesis called the Amazing Andrew came to our school. In the grand final of his show, the Amazing Andrew hypnotized a line of 8th graders into thinking their arms were super glued together. Then he told the guys he'd unglued them with a magic word, and when he said it, they came apart like that. Cucumber. After school, some kids got into an argument over whether the hypnosis was for real or that those 8th graders weren't one on the act and was just faking it. 2 of the kids who thought the Amazing Andrew was a fake linked their arms, and then Marriott tried to hypnotize them into thinking they were super glued together. Believe it or not, it worked. The 2 kids couldn't separate their arms. They totally panicked. Martin tried saying the magic word, but he couldn't unstick them. Cucumber. Cucumber. The kids went back to the school, and one of the teachers had to track down the Amazing Andrew at his job so he could say the magic word to separate them. I have no idea how the school chooses the people who come in and do our assemblies. One person they brought in last year was a guy called Strong Steve. He gave a speech about how we needed to stay off drugs, and then for his grand finale, he ripped a phone book in half with his bare hands. Don't ask me what ripping a phone book has to do with staying off drugs, but the kids at my school went crazy for this guy. In fact, the librarian had to replace half the reference books on our shelves after Strong Steve's visit. The person I'm really hoping they don't bring back is the singer named Christina. I think the school likes to bring Christina for assemblies because her lyrics are really positive. Trust in your dreams and you will see just how happy your heart can be. Reach for the start and never stop. You're a winner. You'll reach the top. Christina calls herself an international pop sensation, but I don't know how she gets away with that. As far as I can tell, she's never been out of the state. Christina World Tour, Stop Mart Superstore, Middletown Shopping Mall, Roll Around Skating Rink, Town Park Gazebo, Rickman Auto Center, Routine AA Bowling Alley, Speed Scout Car Wash. One of my favorite assemblies was the one where a police officer came to our school and told us about being a narc. He said his job was to pose as high school students and then report to the kids who were up to no good. I thought that sounded like an awesome job. If I can get paid to go to school without doing homework or taking tests and send all the jerks to jail, then that's the career for me. Mrs. Johnson, David Morse is shooting spitballs again. After the police officer came to our school, me and my friend Rolly decided to start our own detective agency. Private Eyes for Hire. Unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of demand for private detectives in our neighborhood, and nobody wanted to hire us, but we decided to start spying on people anyway. It was actually a lot of fun. The great thing about being a private investigator is that you can poke around in other people's lives, and it's just part of your job. We mostly focus our investigation on Mr. Mills, who lives a few doors up our street from me. It's not like he was doing anything suspicious. It's just we knew he had all the movie channels on cable. Our detective agency fell apart, though, after we started investigating Scotty Douglas. I'd let him borrow a video game over the summer, and he said he lost it, but I knew he was lying. So I sent Rolly down to Scotty's house to get him to count it up. I taught Rolly how to act really tough and crack his knuckles a lot so Scotty would get the message that we weren't fooling around. But Rolly didn't come back right away. I started to wonder what happened. I went down to Scotty's house by myself to investigate, and I caught Rolly red-handed playing my video game with Scotty. Bing, bing. I had to fire Rolly on his spot, and if I ever start another detective agency, the first thing I'm gonna do is hire a more intimidating officer. Anyway, like I said, everyone was so excited to find out who the guest for today's assembly. But it turned out there wasn't a guest. After we sat down in the gym, Vice Principal Roy got up on the stage and said the reason he gathered us all together was to announce that there was gonna be a special election to replace the student council. We had student council elections in the autumn, but the class officers were skipping the meetings because they're held during recess, and I guess the advisors got fed up. Vice Principal Roy said there are two conditions for running for office. One, you have to be willing to attend all the student council meetings, and two, you can't have 3 detentions or more. I felt like that second rule was direct at me because I just picked up my 3rd detention. In my first year of middle school, an 8th grader told me there was a secret elevator that went to the 2nd floor, and he could sell me special pass for $5. That sounded like a good deal for me, so I gave him $5 for the pass, which looked pretty official. Elevator pass. This pass entitles the holder to unlimited use of the middle school elevator. But it turned out that the whole thing was a scam, and there was no such thing as a secret elevator. I'd been holding on that elevator pass ever since, but a few weeks ago, I sold it to the kid who's new to our school. Unfortunately, I wasn't careful enough, and I got busted by Vice Principal Roy, who made me return the money. He even gave me a detention, which really stunk, because I'd given the kid a deal by selling him the pass at half price.